Hi everyone, welcome back to week 6. You're going to find that these last 3 weeks are going to go very, very quickly. So looking forward to seeing you complete these wonderful assignments and finishing up our course. There will be 2 big changes this week, which I will explain in a minute. And so you want to make sure that you've really paid attention well to what we're going to say. Now that you're getting proficient at creating formatted documents and developing headings and the writing content, we're going to change the format to the type of paper that will be closer to the normal style. Of course, always be sure that you're following guidelines for your specific classes, but this week's paper will be the kind of paper that you will want to model to turn in to your professors. The main change for this week is that we will allow the title on page 2 to really function as a title and not as a level 1 heading. And then you will be needing to create some level 1 headings. But this week, in addition, as we prepare for this last 2 weeks, weeks 7 and 8, they will be written over 2 weeks. This paper is going to be a different format, written in 2 weeks, but we're going to use the week 6 paper as the basis for what we talk about in weeks 7 and 8, so that you don't have to start from scratch in weeks 7 and 8. You will already have references, you'll have a knowledge of your topic, and you will just be addressing it in a little different perspective, but most of the hard work will be done. So let's get started. Discussion question number 1. We'll be covering the topic of in-text citations. We mentioned previously that in-text citations are needed in the body of the work, and that the reference list alone is not sufficient. So if you have a nice reference list, but you don't point people to where that author said what in your paper, it's just not good enough. So we put a little flag in there called an in-text citation, so that anyone reading the paper can say, oh, author A was talking about this material right here. And these are really fairly simple to create, but there can be a few changes, but they're not hard. If you did APA 6, you're going to love APA 7. Information, if you have a concise guide as a textbook in your hand, you can use the inside cover, which gives a little table rather, of how to do these. On chapter 8 in your text, it also gives you a lot of detail. And of course, the APA website. So what you're going to do is download a chart aid and then create a simple help that you can this will help you to practice. And I think really once you do this chart aid, you won't even need to look at it anymore. It's really pretty much that simple. So let's take a look at it. This is downloadable from the discussion question. And you're simply going to look at the scenarios and look at the authors that you've been given, and then write the in-text citation. So an in-text citation now has become very, very simple. No matter how many authors you have, you're going to find it easy, because in APA 6, it wasn't so easy. You had a whole list, like if you have 3 to 5 authors, do it this way. If you have 6 to however many, do it this way. If you have more than this, do it this way. And so it was hard to remember all that, but now it's really quick and easy. Please note that for the reference for 3 to 5 authors or 6 to more authors in these 2 sections, you need to place how you would write an in-text citation for the first citation and how you would do it for every subsequent citation if you were using it again and again and again throughout the paper. The same for 6 or more authors. Here are your authors. How would you write it for the first citation? How would you write it for the subsequent citations? Now, this is pretty simple. So we want 4 or 5, you need to have 6 different citations here. So let's look and see how you do these. Let's just review. The first thing you do is you're going to put a last name and the year for one author. So it's not the last name and an initial. It's not the last name and a first name. it's only the last name, comma, the year, and that's surrounded by parentheses. You place this at the end of the sentence, and the period goes to the right end side of the sentence. So it's like saying you say the sentence, then you put the parentheses, then you put the period, and it encloses this citation within in the context of your sentence. So you don't say sentence, period, citation. You put sentence, citation, and period. That's for one author. How easy is that? All right, let's look at two authors. Here's an example before we go on. Hsn, last name, comma, 2019. So for two authors, even easy. Last name, ampersand, last name, comma, and the year. Enclose the same, period goes in the same place. Now, the only tricky part to this is remembering to do the ampersand and not the word and, but that's not hard, right? So again, just the last name, no initials. So it looks like this, Hsn and Jones, comma, 2019. And finally, for more than two authors, what does more than two authors mean? It means 3, 4, 10, 100. There are references to 1,500 authors in some cases, but it doesn't matter because if you've got 3 or more, you're going to do it the same way. And so that is last name, et al., period, comma, year. Now, in Latin, et means and all is a shortened, abbreviated Latin word, which means others. So it would look like this. Now, maybe Hsn had, let's say he had, this article had 7 other authors in addition to Mr. Hsn. It doesn't matter how many. You're not going to name any of them. You're just going to put this et al., period, comma. So keep in mind that the et does not get a period because it's a word. It's a Latin word, but it's a word. But the AL is an abbreviated word. It's not the complete word, so we put a period behind it. If you put US, standing for United States, you put U period S period because it's an abbreviation. So same thing here, all is an abbreviation, put a dot, a period, and then your normal comma to separate it from the year. Now that's easy, right? So I think you can fill out your chart in about 5 minutes at most. So in-text citations are easy. This is just going to refresh us. I don't think you'll ever question another reference again. If you do, or you need to, then either look at your book on the inside cover, look at an ebook, go to the website, the APA website. It's right there for you. So that's assignment or discussion question number 1, which won't take you any time at all. All right, what about discussion number 2? So writing requires drafts, and that means another try, a do-over. Actual wonderful writing, the best writing, is never accomplished in one sitting, ever, even by the professionals. Time is needed to get things right. Editing, proofing are part of the steps. Now, if you're a professional writer, you'll have a professional proofer and editor at your fingertips to do this for you, but nevertheless, it has to be done. And editors and proofers find mistakes all the time. And so you shouldn't feel bad if you're going through or you're having somebody look at this for you and they find mistakes. It's just the human nature that we all are stuck with here. We're going to make mistakes and you need help to find it. That's what editing and proofing will do for you. They're required. If you present a work that is unprofessional, if you present a word that is unpolished, that's filled with mistakes, it's really going to detract from what you're trying to say. It's a distraction, and readers kind of trip over that as they're trying to get through the material. And so it's very important that in your writing, you take the time to edit and proof, correct and polish, get that better than it was yesterday. And a great way to do that is to sleep on it. You can't write it and proof it and do it all one and get it submitted in one day. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be good. None of us can do that. Professionals don't do that. So don't put that pressure on you to think that, well, I can just whip this off and put it in the Dropbox and I'm done. Well, you can, but it won't be well done. So take the time to edit and proof your material. And so for this discussion, I want you to create a plan of how you're going to do this. Then you need to just work the plan and share your plan with your peers. So it's a good thing to start off by knowing what is really the difference in editing and proofing. So search the internet for an explanation of how editing and proofing are different. What's their relationship to a professional paper? Do you edit first? Do you proof first? Why? Why not? You have to think of what's happening in those two steps. And so I want you to go out and find something that explains that. And then it would be a great idea for you to reference that and put an in-text citation in your work this week. As you get out into the classes, you're going to find that faculty want you to reference and cite your discussion questions. So let's do that this week. Let's put a reference in and cite it when you go out and find something to discuss that. And finally, provide helpful suggestions to your peers. As we've done all along, we're trying to help each other. If you see someone that maybe is mixed up on a thought, or perhaps you have a better idea, some idea that you found that would be helpful, then provide those suggestions to your peers. This is a way that we can help each other. We're a team going through this together, so help your teammates out. Now, a word about punctuation. There is a lecture on punctuation that's important, and I want you to take time to look at that. But the entire meaning of a sentence can be changed with punctuation errors. It's very, very critical that punctuation helps you and doesn't hinder you when you're trying to provide a clear thought. So here's an example. I love my parents, Elvis Presley, and Kermit the Frog. All right, well, as you look at this sentence with this particular punctuation, it looks as though your parents are Elvis Presley and Kermit the Frog. However, if you put the punctuation as it should be, you really see that this is a list of people that this person loves. I love my parents, I love Elvis Presley, I love Kermit the Frog. So just that little comma in there makes all the world of difference. Elvis and Kermit have gone from your parents to just separate things that someone loves. Commas really seem to be the most misused. They are the culprits oftentimes in making an error that confuses your mind about what the reader is or the writer is saying. And so let's take a look at these commas who are tiny but mighty. I also might say that they're naughty because a writer often makes them naughty by sticking them in the wrong spot. So what are some of the uses for commas? I would like for you to be able to just have about 3 ways to use commas and work on getting them right. Probably the most noticed errors that students make is when they are joining sentences. So how do you use a comma when you connect 2 complete sentences? All right, let's take a look. The nurse provided medication, the patient took it. Well, this is a run-on sentence, right? We learned about this before. They're just 2 complete sentences. The nurse provided medication, the patient took it. 2 complete sentences, but the way they're thrown together here, it doesn't make any sense. It makes you stop and go, what? So if you put the nurse provided medication, comma, the patient took it, that's slightly better because you're getting the meaning, but it's actually incorrect. So let's look at how the best way is to do this. The nurse provided medication, comma, and the patient took it. Now that's the right way to get it done. So This is called a coordinating conjunction. And when used with a comma, you can successfully connect two sentences. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe in high school or junior high, you learned about the fanboys. So there are other words except for the word and that you can use to connect. Some of them would be for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So you could say the nurse provided medication, comma, but the patient refused to take it. The nurse provided medication, comma, for the, that would make sense. So the patient took it. That might make sense. The nurse neither provided medication, comma, nor did the patient take it. I mean, that was probably a silly example, but the point is, anytime you connect two sentences and you put a conjunction in, use that comma, and that makes it absolutely correct. So another use is lists. The manager checked the messages, answered the phone, and started the meeting. Well, again, that's kind of gets garbled in your mind unless you use commas correctly. So the manager checked the messages, comma, answered the phone, comma, and started the meeting. Now it's very clear that the manager did these three things. And it doesn't really, isn't hard to do that, and yet it's so much clearer. So be sure that you've placed a comma before the last entry in any list. And then another one is for introductory words and phrases. And these are very common. You see these in writing. I'm sure you use them all the time. Often they are prepositions such as this: in the morning, the team arrives to start the day. In the morning is an introductory phrase. It's not necessary. You could have read that sentence as the team arrives to start the day, but when did they come? Well, they came in the morning, so that provides a little more specificity, a little more clarity. So in the morning, comma, the team arrives to start the day. So introductory words, introductory phrases. There are hundreds of them. You could say, finally, the team arrives to start the day. Actually, the team arrived to start the day. Generally, the team arrives to start the day by 8. I mean, there are hundreds of them, and we couldn't possibly all list them here. So those are introductory words. Introductory phrases would have a little more attached to them, such as, to get good grades, you have to study. Well, you have to study is okay on its own, but you're just adding a little bit more information, and so you want to put that comma there. If I do not work hard, I will not succeed. I will not succeed is a sentence, but you don't want to just say, I'm not going to succeed. If you want to put something on there that says how you will not succeed, then if I do not work hard as an introductory phrase, just put a comma there. Being a manager, I need to help my staff. So again, these are little things, but very important. Another way to connect two sentences without using a comma, the nurse provided the medication and the patient took it, is that you could put a semicolon and then you do not need that coordinating conjunction. So you can just put a semicolon there, but you can't put a comma there. All right, for assignment number 1, this week we're going to write a paper that is considered to be the normal style. And the main change is that the title is going to act as a title only. Now, we have asked the title over these past few weeks to act like a level 1 so that we didn't have a long, lengthy paper. And so this week, we're going to ask that the title is only a title. And so that means we'll be adding just a little more length to our paper this week. Here's the pattern. You're going to have 2 level 1 headings after you put your title in, followed by 4 level 2 headings and 2 sets of level 3 headings. Now let's just look at it. And of course we have a conclusion, which is considered a level 1 at the end of the paper. So let's look at it. So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have a title, but it is not your level 1. You'll place the introduction at page 2. You put your title bolded as we normally do, and then put your introduction right after that as we normally do. What's different is that you are going to choose 2 ways to break down this topic, whatever your topic is. So you need 2 main points, level 1 and level 2. Your thesis will then have 2 main points because you're going to have 2 level 2s. Before, since our title was acting as that level 1, we made our level 2s the main points, but now the main points are going to be the 2 level 1s. So the thesis statement needs 2 needs 2 pieces of evidence to match, and they should mirror the level 1s in your paper. Then under each of those level 1s, you're going to find 2 ways to break that down for each of them. And then for each of them, each of the level 2s, you're going to find 2 ways to break down one of those level 2s. They do not have to be under the first level 2. They could be under the second. I don't care where you put the level 3s. Doesn't really matter which level 2's involved, but they can't be split. So you can't have a level 2 with one level 3 and then another level 2 with another level 3. That never works, because to split something means you have at least 2 pieces and you're subdividing these ideas. So now that you have this, let's just take a look at what it would look like. So here again is our paper on the contributions of snow to Midwest agriculture. That's the title. It is not a level 1. You're going to write an introduction, and you're going to make your thesis statement match soil fertility and soil insulation. So you might say something like contributions of the snow to Midwest agriculture are dependent upon, here's your claim, soil fertility, or let's do it again. Result in, contributions of the snow to Midwest agriculture result in, there's your claim, soil fertility, soil insulation. And that would be your thesis statement. Those 2 pieces, the soil fertility and soil insulation, guess what? They show up as level 1s, don't they? Because of those are the 2 main ideas. Now, taking each of those 2 main ideas, how can I talk about it in 2 separate ways? All right, soil fertility. How do I fertilize my soil? What does snow have in it that fertilizes soil? It has organic nitrogen and atmospheric ammonium. So let's talk about those. What is the meaning of soil insulation with snow? Let's find 2 ways to talk about that topic. Well, it's protective, and it has a resultant effect of insulation. So those are 2 ways. So now we have 2 level 1s and 2 level 2s underneath. Now pick one of those or the other. And again, it doesn't have to be the first one, it could be the second one. And find 2 ways to talk about that topic. So let's talk about organic nitrogen as level 3s. And you notice that they're all up to the left, they're flush left. The only difference between 2 and 3 is that 3 is italicized. All right, organic nitrogen. Well, it has an essential significance, and then you'd go on to talk about that. And it's involved with nitrogen fixation, and you'd go on to talk about that. In our second major section, talking about soil insulation, we might choose the level 2 of protective mechanisms. What are 2 protective mechanisms? Well, one is air entrapment and one is ice crystal influence. So we've broken that one down a little bit further. And then at the bottom we have a conclusion, and that's it. Now, one common error that students make is that students forget to put a paragraph between each heading. A heading can never touch another heading one-to-one. It has to have a paragraph in between. So under soil fertility, you're just going to write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or whatever you want that talks about the idea of soil fertility, that the snow contributes to soil fertility, and maybe how fertility it's important to crops or whatever. It has to have some kind of a paragraph then. Then they're all going to be meal paragraphs. So your L, the very last sentence of that paragraph would point to organic nitrogen. So it might say something like, and one of the most important components in soil fertility is organic nitrogen. Okay, now you've linked over to that topic. Now go under that one and make a paragraph about organic nitrogen in a general sense. And maybe that L says something like, And two essential or vital components of organic nitrogen would be its essential significance and ability to fixate nitrogen. I don't know. I guess we'd want to leave that second one off because you really just want to point to the next paragraph, although I don't think it would hurt to point to 2 to see that it's coming up. But nevertheless, make sure that you have meal paragraphs under here and you have an M. You're starting with a sentence that points back to the heading just above, whether it's a level 1, 2, or 3, doesn't matter. And you have an evidence or several evidence statements. You have an analysis of that, and you have a lead out or a link to the next topic so that it flows smoothly across this idea. So you'll use a traditional broad to narrow introduction with a thesis statement that has 2 evidence pieces. Those 2 evidence pieces will become your level 1s. So far that's not hard. And then just begin breaking each section down a little bit. Each level 1 into a couple ways to talk about it as level 2s. And just one level 2 of each of these sections, find a couple of ways you could talk about that. So you can see that this adds a little more bulk to the paper. It's a little more in depth. It's a little more academic. It's a little more scholarly looking. And one of the reasons is because this time we're letting our title just be the title. So you're going to need to add some level 1s. All right, so that is really the sum and substance. It's just a little more of what you've done before. You've already done all these things. You're just going to do a little more of it. But once you get finished with this paper, you're going to have a real good basis for then writing weeks 7 and 8, which will be done in 2 pieces. And actually, it's going to be kind of fun to do that. So to review, this week's topic will be used in weeks 7 and 8. You need 4 to 5 scholarly sources from the database and the internet. Make sure that your dates are current. And certainly, we want to see more journal articles than internet sites. You might have 1 or 2 in there, but the bulk of it should be database articles. Please apply all the feedback from previous weeks. If you've been getting something wrong again and again and again, it's time to stop, figure it out, get help from your instructor, because this paper should be shining. This paper should demonstrate all of the skills that you've used in this past course. And so everything should be spick and span. And so use that feedback notebook. Please use Grammarly and tutor.com. Make sure you check Safe Assign. Please upload the tutor.com report. The reason for that is to make sure that if they do not understand the exact nature of what we're expecting you to do and they give you advice which from their viewpoint might look to be correct, but it's actually not correct based on what you've been told, then I don't want to see anyone counted off or something. If tutor.com said do this and you did it, even though you shouldn't have done it, you might feel like, well, they said I needed to, so I did it. I don't want to see you penalized unfairly. If it's something that's very clear that we've said again and again and again, and they tell you to do it, then don't do it. But if there's any little problems in there, then I want to make sure that you're not charged for something like that, because it's hard on their part to know exactly where we are in all of this sometimes. And so that's why they ask you to describe your paper so that they can kind of grab a hold of that. But sometimes it's hard. So please upload tutor.com. Once you've completed this, you will be ahead for the last 2 weeks. So you might need to add a few more references, but basically you're going to have this topic in your mind so that you can sit down. And we're really going to change up the pattern next week to mimic a mini capstone paper, which most baccalaureate degrees have. So it's going to be fun. You're almost finished. Questions are welcome. Please let me know how we can help. Let your instructor know how you can help. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks.